Okay, wonderful. We're live. Everything's going perfect. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm super excited to be here with you tonight and really excited because we have our special guest speaker with us tonight. Stephen is coming in to talk a little bit about mindset. He's going to share some tips with us, maybe some strategies you haven't thought about before, but our goal is to bring you some value tonight. So if you're joining us and you have any questions or anything you'd like us to specifically address, just go ahead and drop that into the comments below the video and I'll make sure that we get those taken care of for you. But otherwise, I don't want to take up a whole bunch of time. This is Stephen and welcome. We're so excited to have you join us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Clarissa.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too.
So Stephen, how did you get into the fitness space?
Where do you want me to start? I can go pretty far back.
I know. I think we both have really long stories. Do you have like a condensed version?
I do.
Okay.
So 13 years ago, August 17th, 2010, I had my last suicide attempt. Leading up to that point, during that summer, I had 5 suicide attempts. Prior to that, from the ages of 10 to 20, I had another 5 suicide attempts, multiple hospitalizations, and just wasn't really making any forward progress on my life. It was just vicious cycles repeating over and over again. So around after all that was behind me, after my last suicide attempt, I started like working with a really good therapist. I had been working with therapists that whole time, but this one therapist actually helped me get off medications. And part of that was through finding strategies like running and losing weight, because during that time I had picked up a lot of weight. I was always a skinny kid, but I picked up the weight and just wasn't happy with where I was. So by age 23, I started running, and fell into a whole bunch of dieting traps and like didn't know what I was doing. And then age 26, so we're talking like 6 years ago, 7 years ago now, where I was working in a warehouse, and one of my managers, he was a personal trainer, and like he was talking to me one day about Spartan races, and I fell into that whole world of obstacle course racing, and I was doing 5Ks, 10Ks, obstacle course races every single week. And that's pretty much where I decided, like, I really enjoy this. I want to become a personal trainer. I've moved past all of this. Like, I'm still working through some stuff at this point, but when I was 26 years old, that's when I made the decision. Okay, I'm gonna become a personal trainer so that I can help others through what I've been through.
That's amazing. That's quite a lot to overcome. I think it's kind of almost natural though that when we find that exercise can play that huge of a role in helping us overcome some really tough mental difficulties, I think it's sort of natural that we just want to, we almost feel obligated that we have to share that with other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I had so much help along the way, and without that, I might not be here today.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, 100%. So, so the mental piece though, that kind of, does it tie in, like the exercise really helped you going through the mental troubles that you were going through, and then you wanted to share it with other people. But do you think that because of the things that you went through, that it's given you a different perspective on just how important that mindset piece is?
Yeah, so I mean, when I was going through some of my like deepest, darkest times, like just like pits of despair constantly, I wasn't doing any sort of movement. I
Mhm.
wasn't eating like really any whole foods. I was like really eating pretty terribly, which I'm sure is the story a lot of people can relate to. And so when a therapist that I was working with suggested, why don't you try running? Like, get outdoors a little bit more. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I realized just how good that made me feel. Now, during the time, I still had terrible habits. Now, I mean, I've always, like, since I was 12 years old, I've been drinking coffee and all sorts of energy drinks and everything. So when I first started running, I would get back from my run, or it was either when I got back from my run or before I started my run, like I would have Red Bull mixed with coffee,
Oh my God.
which, yeah, like I'm surprised I never had a heart attack.
Oh,
Um, and so
yeah.
I was mixing Red Bull with coffee. I would finish up my run and I would just smoke a cigarette. Like it was still a lot of bad habits at that time.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm really glad you didn't have a heart attack. That's a lot of caffeine.
You have no idea.
Yeah, no, I relied pretty heavily on that for a while when I was working two jobs when the kids were younger, but not to where I've mixed other caffeine in my coffee.
Yeah, I was working overnights at UPS at the time, and so I would be, I mean, my morning, so from like 3 o'clock in the morning to like 9 o'clock in the morning, I would have like 2 5-hour energy shots. I would have a couple Monster energy drinks, like the big ones. I would have some coffee. I would get home, and mind you, this was 9 o'clock in the morning, pour myself a glass of rum and like smoke some weed and just fall asleep. So there was a lot in there.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy. And it's so different for you now.
Yes. Yeah, so now I mean I still partake in weed sometimes. But for the most part, I'm not drinking alcohol. I mean, my caffeine intake is still pretty high, but it's nothing like it used to be. Not drinking sugary energy drinks, just drinking black coffee. Um, but yeah, life has made a complete 360, and part of that is the habits I've set up and just the forward momentum I've created in my life. Without that, again, I wouldn't be here today.
Mm, yeah. So how would someone, like, in your opinion, go about setting up some of those habits to create forward momentum?
So I think it starts with really analyzing your current habits.
Mhm.
Like what are the habits that are serving you and what are the ones that are hurting you? Like if you find that you have more that are hurting you than are serving you, how can you turn those into ones that are going to serve you in the long run? And when we think about that long run self, when we think about that future self, like who we want to become, whether that's losing 20 pounds, losing 50 pounds, to like becoming a bodybuilder, like it's all gonna take a certain amount of time, right? And so if we can extend the time horizons on those and look out further into the future and see, okay, what's that identity I want to create? What's the person that I want to become, and what sort of habits are they incorporating into their life? Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's eating more protein, having more fruits and veggies. I know this is a vegan group, so hopefully you're all having enough fruits and veggies, but it's just those small, simple things. Like, what's one small thing that you can change right in this moment? And you don't have to be perfect at it. Like, perfection isn't, do not aim for perfection because you're not going to meet it. Like you're just going to frustrate yourself. You're going to be miserable as you're going through it. So rather than looking for perfection, just look for that 1% opportunity each day. If even if it's one meal, and adding one small thing to that meal, adding a little bit more protein, a little bit more water, a little bit more fruits and veggies. You're going to do a whole lot better doing that than trying to overhaul everything at once. if you try overhauling everything, you're gonna set yourself up to fail. It may work for a while, but eventually you're gonna fall back to old habits.
That's so true. So very, very true. I think that a lot of people have that mistaken impression that mindset or motivation is like the switch that they say that they need it, they want it, and they flip it on, and then everything changes. And it's like you said, it doesn't happen like that at all.
No, not at all. Like motivation isn't gonna last. Like
Sure not.
if you're relying purely on motivation, like you're gonna set yourself up for failure. Um I think some specific habits, like if we really want to get into like nitty-gritty about like talking about up leveling your mindset, one of the biggest things that helped me was just looking for something to be grateful for each day. Like, especially in the social media driven world and like constant 24/7 news feeds, we see a lot of negativity. We hear a lot of negativity. And we have the opportunity to unfollow those accounts. So like even if they're close friends or family. So like just as like we might cut certain things out of our diets, like our nutrition, we we can go on social media diets. We can unfollow certain accounts that may just be constantly putting out negative information. They might be putting out things that just trigger you to fall into these old habits. So going on those sorts of diets and being able to cultivate gratitude, surround yourself with positive people, surround yourself with the people that are going to root you on no matter what. Even when you fall down, they're going to help you pick back up. So being able to find those support networks, being in a group like this where like you have an entire community at your disposal, people who are going through the same things as you, maybe in a different way, but don't be afraid to share those stories. Don't be afraid to tap into those resources, because that's going to help you move forward. It's going to help you cultivate more of that positive mindset, and you'll start noticing things in your life just miraculously changing.
Yes, that little piece of positivity goes so far.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and our community, I just want to add to, because I know we have a ton of new group members, but our community here is so supportive. If people are not being supportive, if they're not being positive, they're not allowed to be in the group. Like, they actually get removed. So please don't ever be afraid that you can't share things in here. It's super important to me to make a positive community. There's enough enough negative.
Right.
Yeah. We've got quite a few people watching on Facebook, so that's wonderful. Ladies, if you're there and you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat to make sure they get answered. Erin just wanted to share that she was running to help her get through her sister's suicide as well. So
That's awesome. And sorry to hear about your sister. That's a tough one. So one of the things that kind of led me down like one of the paths of like a very long road. When I was 10 years old, one of my cousins actually committed suicide. And that was very hard on me. Like I wasn't super close with him, but he was 23 years old, and it was that happened. And then a few years down the road, my godmother's brother-in-law committed suicide. Like a few people in my life have committed suicide, and it's something that I try to talk about my experiences as much as possible, because if we're going through something, if we have come out on the other side of it, we have that obligation almost to help others through that same thing. We have almost like I said, like an obligation to share that with the world and bring light to these taboo issues. Because that's the only way we can change, and we can start opening up the conversations about these things. Yeah, I lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it takes a huge level of courage to be able to share those stories, but you're right, it's so important, because there's so many people that are they're locked in that fear and they can't share that story. But if you can, the odds are that they are going to reach out because they know that, you know, you've been through a situation that is similar and then is relatable to them. So it gives them a feeling of safety.
Right. It gives a feeling of safety. It gives a feeling of hope. It gives a feeling that there's more than just the darkness that we're in. Because
Mhm.
again, if all we're doing is scrolling social media and paying attention to the news, like my intake of the news is very, very minimal. And that's one of the best things you can do for your mindset is limit your consumption of news, because it's just all doom and gloom all the time. And you're going to get caught up in that. You're going to get sucked down that rabbit hole. And it's just not going to be a good experience.
No, that's so valid. I am the same way about the news. I have no idea what's going on in the world. I know what's going on in my world.
Right.
With the
I
people
keep
I
like
care
very
about.
surface level.
Yeah. That's so funny. But it's so true. That's like the fastest path to negativity.
Absolutely. Um, are there any questions I can help answer? Like, I hope this is helpful so far. Hope people are
No,
getting
I
value
think
from
it's
this.
fantastic. We don't have any questions in the group. Um, I think like I mentioned, I think that everybody has the mindset and the motivation piece linked to if they could just turn it on, everything would be perfect. And I think just reiterating that it doesn't work that way and that
Right.
instead it's actually something we have to change inside us in order to be able to step into that path.
Right. Until we change that inner self,
Mhm.
until we change our inner dialogue. And I mean, this can be done through numerous ways. I mean, journaling, affirmations, meditation, and prayer, like all these things can all lead to changing that internal dialogue. Again, changing your consumption, changing what you're consuming, who you're surrounding yourself with, uh, being able to cultivate more of that growth mindset. And this one, so growth mindset gets thrown around a lot. I feel like mindset and mindfulness, that it gets thrown around a lot nowadays.
Mhm.
And growth mindset is just really like believing that your abilities aren't in a fixed position. Like your abilities have room to improve. Like no matter how skilled you are at something, like whether it's in the weight room or tracking your food, or maybe you have a passion project that you're working on, if you know that you can develop these skills that are going to get you to a higher level on that, you're going to be able to just continue moving forward. You're going to be able to continue adding those 1% steps every single day. And when you look back 1 year from now, 2 years from now, like you're 37 times better every single year if you just become 1% better every single day. Um, and it's not a linear path. I did have a one last like bullet point that I had have written down here is like this idea of like holistic well-being.
Mhm.
Um, and so my business is X Dimension Wellness. There's a whole reason behind that, but basic gist of it is there's 8 dimensions of wellness. There's emotional, environmental, financial, intellectual, occupational, physical, social, spiritual. Most people, when they think about wellness, they're thinking physical wellness, maybe they're thinking about financial, maybe they're thinking about spiritual, but oftentimes those other areas don't really come into play. So I wanted to actually give you guys something that you could like have a better idea of how these work together. So in terms of emotional, this could come across as like, I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel frustrated, so I'm gonna eat XYZ. Like you're oftentimes we eat out of emotion. We eat because we're feeling something, so we're trying to fill that hole. Environmental. If it's there, so if you're keeping Pop-Tarts in your environment, for instance, and like Pop-Tarts are a trigger food for you, and you're just gonna eat that entire box, then don't keep them in the environment. Financial, this is where like budgeting for grocery shopping comes in. And so like if you're going like organic or organic everything, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than if you're going the non-organic route. As far as the intellectual, like there are certain foods you can eat that are going to help with your brain power. They're going to help with better focus and clarity. So just a couple off the top of the head, like walnuts, avocado, blueberries, all great brain foods. There's a lot of nutrients in those. There's healthy fats in the avocado, healthy fats in the walnuts. I'm sure Clarissa has talked to you all about this. In terms of the occupational, like how many times do you go to work and there's cake or donuts or like something is being celebrated where there's food around that celebration. Same thing with social, friend and family events, not cutting those things out. Physical, like you can eat for your health, you can eat for your longevity, you can eat for your performance. Again, all things Clarissa has probably talked to you about, but thinking in these like holistic lights, thinking about each dimension, like how is this food serving me right now? Spiritual, like there might be a fasting component. So whatever that is, knowing how that all interplays together and how you can navigate that, it's an important part of your journey.
No, it's just such a really great thing to bring to attention, because like you said, I don't think that many people ever look at all the pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
We're complete human beings living a fractured existence.
Yes. Yes, I know. And we do, when we're working with people, we do want to look at the whole picture. And it does, even to this day, it still is kind of upsetting to me when someone comes in and they ask, can I just get a meal plan or can I just get a workout plan? And I always say no, because it's not going to help you in the long. There's plenty of people that'll give you a meal plan. They don't want to help you. They want to make money.
You can go on ChatGPT and find a meal plan. You can go on ChatGPT and find a workout plan.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're going to follow it. It doesn't mean it's going to be expertly programmed and it's going to be adjusted to meet your exact needs.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to seek out help, find coaches like Clarissa, like that's one of the best things you can ever do. I think even coaches have coaches.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's so true. Well, we have even more people joining us. So ladies, if you have any questions, we'll stay on here for a little bit to make sure we get them answered for you. Just drop them in the chat. But no, I loved that description, because there is all of those facets and angles to each person as a person. Like, yeah, there's so many dimensions. And I think that women actually probably get overwhelmed the most, because we have so many roles to fill in still trying to take care of that person, that, you know, really we do have all of those needs and all of those facets. And it can get overwhelming. So again, like Stephen said, taking the time to reach out and get help, whether, you're hiring a coach or just using the support that is here in the group is something that could, potentially be invaluable to you.
And I would even add to if you're not quite ready to reach out to a coach, if you're not quite ready to hire a coach, like being able to just connect with friends, connect with family, like let them know what you're going through. Like I said earlier, if you share your story, if you share your struggles and you share what you're going through, other people are going to want to help you through that. If they don't want to help you, if they're like just putting you down, that's probably a sign to remove that person from your life.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I actually have a podcast coming out at the beginning of September with Nick Ross, and we talked about that a little bit. Is like there's these different levels of consciousness, and it's like a very heavy topic. Like I have to go back and listen to that episode many times, but basically the whole idea of it is to like we start out at these base levels of consciousness, and like the lowest level of consciousness is death, the highest level is like and I don't know, like everyone has different spiritual beliefs, but like the highest level of consciousness is like you're in heaven, like this is paradise. But in between there you go up the levels, and like the lower ones are like anger and fear and like just anxiety and all these things that aren't really serving us. And then as we continue to move up the levels, as we continue to move into our purpose and what we were put here to do, we naturally start shedding other people from our life that aren't really keeping up. And so Eckhart Tolle, and this is talked about on the podcast, but Eckhart Tolle has a book called A New Earth, and he talks about like it's a little bit of quantum theory. So again, it's a very heavy subject. I don't want to get too deep in there, but essentially every time you're leveling up in your own life, you're moving to a new earth, and anyone who's not leveling up with you, they're going to stay behind on that old earth. So the way Nick put it was, if you've ever been scrolling through Facebook and like someone's name popped up that you haven't even thought about in like 5 years, and every once in a while their name pops up, like up until that point you forgot they existed. There's so many people like that in your lives where you've gone through life just shedding people away that haven't moved with you. Again, it's a little bit of a divergent topic, so I'll shut up there. I can go on tangents. So
No, I think that's a super valid point though. And I think that it's also good to remember the other way, that sometimes as you go up in these levels, not everybody follows you, and that's okay. It's not necessarily that we always have to remove someone. Sometimes they like voluntarily won't follow us, like they will stop communicating with you, and you have to realize that that is okay. They're not in the same place as you.
exactly.
Okay, I don't see any more questions in the comments here. There's just the one comment that shows me there's a whole bunch of people there, so that's really awesome. If the ladies wanted to find you to hear you talk about mindset some more, or any of the other good things that you talk about, what is the name of your podcast? Where can they find that?
It's the 86,400 experience. And that's on Spotify, Apple. It's not on YouTube. It's
Oh,
pretty much every podcast platform, just not YouTube. I've had people tell me that they have trouble finding it sometimes, so I think you have to put the comma in there. So just 86, 400.
Okay, and I'll drop a link in the.
Yeah, I can send you a link.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll make sure it gets attached to the video. Wonderful. I thank you so much for coming in and sharing value with us. Sherry says this has been very helpful. So glad that I made it. Thank you. Great.
Thank you for having me, and I'm glad I could help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really appreciate it. I think it was super valuable, and it will live here for other new members that need more mindset value as they come in. I really appreciate it.
All right, awesome. Have a good night, Clarissa. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, you too. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thanks. Bye.